December 2nd, 2024. We come out of the Sagittarius New Moon. We have Venus trying to Neptune, to Uranus. We have Mercury opposite Jupiter. We have the Sun square Saturn. We have Venus sextile to Neptune. And then we have Mars stationing to go retrograde. We have Neptune stationing to go direct. We have Mercury retrograde square to Saturn. We have Venus going into Aquarius and meeting with Pluto, and we have the Sun opposite Jupiter. I'm exhausted. I'm gonna sort all this out. Maybe. Let's see what we can do over here. Okay, let's start with the Sagittarius New Moon. Sagittarius New Moon early on Sunday, December 1st. If you're watching earlier than Monday the 2nd, then it's a strange kind of energy, really, because it's a waning Scorpio moon, say on Friday. Well, you're not watching on Friday night, but it's a waning Scorpio moon, and then the moon goes into Sag, and Sag is an upbeat sign, but it's new. It's a new moon. So we're going to wait till we wax out of it to feel like the energy is returning. Although the solar light is pulling inward, as I've been talking about for a few weeks now. We're at the sort of the dark time of the year. So it's a different kind of resurgence of energy. It's a great time. Let's say Sunday night if you're watching, but I'm thinking even more like Monday, Tuesday. Good to set your intentions around things like travel, stuff you want to learn, higher education types of things. If you're going to take a yoga class, you want to take a yoga class or something like that. If you want to study philosophy, if you want to study astrology, you have to set your intention for that. Just send me an email. But other than, things that you're going to want to do, big picture kinds of things, travel, you want to travel, set your intentions around that sometime around Monday, Tuesday. Good idea to do a little bit of work too, just you don't have to do a lot, just, search online, take a couple of notes about things that you might want to do or something like that. Just, you get started, get the ball rolling, this type of thing. Scorpio New Moon wasn't a good time to set intentions. The Sagittarius New Moon definitely is. So just get stuff started on that. All right, then on this would probably color Sunday the 1st more than anything else, but they'll still feel it on Monday. Venus is trying to Uranus. Venus is in Capricorn, which is a little bit more traditional and formal. Uranus is not traditional and formal, out in her home sign of Taurus. And so the connection there is sort of like, we can kind of make things work in terms of socializing and relationship. We have the ability to kind of, we should do this, but we want to do this. We can make it work together. And then Venus goes on to sextile Neptune, and that puts things in soft focus. Venus and Capricorn, a little bit more hard edges, a little bit more like, things should be done, traditionally, nicely. And Neptune says, yeah, that's true. But, we can kind of make it we can kind of soften the edges a little bit, Formal gatherings, for example, aren't necessarily stiff. Right? Because they have a little bit of formality to them, doesn't make them stiff. And the Venus-Neptune kind of thing is going on. By the way, I'm not talking about if you got Venus and Capricorn or anything like that. I just mean like, the social vibe that happens. Although, yes, Venus and Capricorn likes things to be a little bit more on the traditional side, a little bit more formality, a little bit more, we'll have a good time, but within, a certain amount of structure. We have too much to talk about to linger on this. Jupiter is opposite, or I should say Mercury retrograde is opposite Jupiter at the beginning of the week. Now, if you shot your mouth off about something round about November 18th or so, you might take it back right now. Or you might double down. Who knows? It'll be towards the end of the month when Mercury will again go forward and oppose Jupiter. You can dig yourself in deeper if you want now, and then, pull your way out of it at the end of the month. Mercury opposite Jupiter, certainly the opportunity for saying a little too much, letting a little bit too much out there, expressing your beliefs and opinions nice and loudly, whether or not they have any factual basis. But they're in each other's signs. Mercury is in Jupiter's sign, Jupiter's in Mercury's sign, so they're kind of able to kind of hopefully work things out. At best, maybe you can find some facts to support your beliefs. I'm old school. What do you want from me? I'm old school. Some facts to support your beliefs. Roundabout midweek, we have the Sun square to Saturn. This is another indication that you should have some facts, right? You should have some support to things. This is happening right at the same time that Mercury is opposite to Jupiter. The Sun square Saturn tends to be a little bit of this. It's not an ego boost. The Sun is in Sagittarius, pretty upbeat. And the Saturn in Pisces is not the best at hemming in anything. It's like trying to get his sea legs there floating around a little bit. He likes to be on solid ground, not out at sea. But it does suggest, and then Mercury goes on to square Saturn on Friday. So we have, this whole, it's a little bit like Mercury, Saturn will sort of hold you accountable for what you're saying. So the vibe that goes through this week is a bit of like, we might be a little bit too much about some things especially for work stuff and all that, a little bit too much. And Saturn is there to kind of hold us in and say, well, listen, bub, great ideas and stuff, but what's real? Well, as you'll see, that what's real is probably not the biggest thing, but we have a date. We have a couple of days ahead for that. All right, so on Friday, Mars stations to go retrograde. He's going to be at 6 degrees of Leo. If that means anything to you, he's going to retrograde down to 17 degrees of Cancer on February 23rd when he goes direct. So he's going to be retrograde for the next 10 weeks. When Mars is retrograde, it is considered to be a poor time to begin new projects in general. Okay, but especially things that have a martial kind of tint to them. For example, it is considered to be a poor time to begin a new job. You know who's beginning a new job with Mars retrograde on January 20th? We'll see. I could say a lot of things about that, but I'm not going to. Bill Clinton, I believe Bill Clinton began both his terms with Mars retrograde, if you need a model for what happens. It's not considered to be a good time to begin a new job. Not great for new exercise programs or sporting things. You can go back to old stuff. That's fine, but it's not a great time to begin a new one. Mars retrograde is considered to be a poor time to begin a new sexual relationship with someone. Use your judgment. You know what I'm saying? I guess I suppose the logic is you could go back to a sexual relationship from the past. That would seem to. But if we follow Venus retrograde, then maybe we would just go back to see why it ended anyway. Anyways, listen, it's probably not a concern for a lot of folks, so we're just throwing it out there. It's on the list of things to think about. But generally speaking, the Mars retrograde energy. Now remember, we're at the end of the solar cycle over here. We're at the end of the solar. We're coming up to the solstice on December 21st. We're coming up to the solstice, the nadir, the low point in the solar cycle. The energy draws inwards. And then Mars, the planet of energy, is going retrograde. So usually, as I've said before, we wait till after the holidays, after the new year. Sometime in January, you start to feel the solar energy beginning to wax. At least you feel it's on the upswing. And this year, we may wait a little bit longer before we really get going, before we really feel like, okay, it's the new year, we're going to do stuff. It might be more like March before we really feel it. Now, you're not going to sit around and do nothing. You're not going to sit on your hands. You're not going to just stick to routine stuff. You're not going to not begin new things, obviously. Well, I mean, it would be a good strategy to wait. But the point is that it's not a time to push ahead, right? The more effort you put in, theoretically, the less you might get out of it. That you could put in a lot of energy and walk away with fairly minimal results. And I think that the strategy that we have to have for the next couple of months is one of don't burn yourself out. Don't keep pouring energy into situations that are just not ready to turn over just yet. If you need to step back and let things wait for a little bit, do that. Do that. Waiting, retreating is not giving up. Retreating is not giving up. It's We're not going to push forward with things when it's not the time. Mars, by the way, Mars retrograde considered to be a very, very poor time to begin legal proceedings. So, not that you would go sue somebody or anything like that, but it's not a good time for that. You don't want to be the aggressor in legal actions with Mars retrograde. Okay, well, there's that. Now, what do you think happens next? The next thing that happens, the very next day, is that Neptune stations to retrograde. No, Neptune stations to go direct, ending his retrograde. It doesn't really matter if Neptune is retrograde or direct, especially given the nature of Neptune. What matters is that when Neptune stations the day before, the day of, and the day after, really, really poor for anything practical. It's the first weekend of the month of December. It's fine for socializing. It's fine for parties. It's fine for meditation. It is great for getting lost in a fantasy, binge watching movies and things like that. And, listen to music, make music, anything like that is terrific. This is no time to make, investment decisions or, job decisions and things like that. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the 6th, 7th, and 8th, not the time. Now, when Mars stations itself, I talked about Mars retrograde, but when Mars stations, we feel the Mars energy very strongly, right? Whenever a planet stations, we all get a strong dose of that planet. Mars is the planet of action. You want to do something. Neptune, Neptune says, don't. And so, you have to, if you have extra energy, right? Channel it into something foolish. Channel it into something that doesn't matter. Sensible exercise, if you know what sensible is with Neptune stationing and Mars stationing, if you know what sensible is, then sensible exercise, good way to burn off energy. Do what feels good, but don't expect much in terms of results. Don't expect folks to be on the same page with you or even on any page at all. So it is not a bad energy. We're coming up to the first quarter, waxing moon. It's an active time in terms of the lunar cycle, at least. As long as it doesn't matter, as long as you're not trying to do something that matters, as long as you're not trying to get the answer out of something, it's fine. It's fine. And this is not a bad energy. It can be quite enjoyable, really. It's quite enjoyable if you're just if you're just taking the ride. If you're just taking the ride and seeing what happens and, having some fun and taking it light. This is a fine energy. There's nothing too much to it. The one thing that might make it a little hard to do is that the sun is going to be opposite Jupiter as well. This is the weekend. That'll help make things fun. But also it's impelling us towards action, right? So we have a lot of stuff. The first quarter moon, sun opposite Jupiter, and the Mars station are all sort of active, feel like doing something. Neptune says, do what you want, but hopefully it doesn't matter. That's the whole thing. We want to do something that doesn't matter. Have fun, create. It's a great opportunity to create. Just, make some music, draw something, write, You may not be much of a musician or an artist, but you can write something down, you know, be creative. Cook. Cooking is a great creative activity. It is, it is around my place, I'll tell you what. That type of thing. You want to make something that feels creative, but you're not interested in the product. It's the process. You're interested in what you can do, what you can do that's going to be fun as you do it. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what comes out of it. You're not trying to come up with anything that matters. Maybe in a week or a month or whatever, you will find something about it that is like, oh, this was a good idea. Maybe, or maybe not. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. You know, Mars stationing, Mercury retrograde, Neptune stationing. These are all indications that it's not time to push forward for practical stuff. But, it's a good time to have fun. Now, Venus. Now, Venus comes into Aquarius. Venus gets into Aquarius on the 7th, which is the day of the Neptune station. And so leaves the formality of Capricorn, gets into Aquarius. Aquarius is idealistic and principled. It's not traditional, but it's principled. It's not it's not a flexible, it's not, weird for its own sake kind of sign. Venus gets into Aquarius. It is great for socializing with friends and in groups. It is good for, if there's a meeting of your local astrology association, that would be ideal. She's going to be in Aquarius until January 2nd. Yeah? Yeah, until January 2nd. And it just the vibe shifts. It's a nice vibe for the holiday season. It's a nice, I would think, really New Year's has got to really take a little bit of benefit from this one. Although it's going to be close to the new moon on New Year's as well. But there's this, socializing. If you have, any group or thing that it matters to you, you're the local friends of blah blah blah. Then it would be great for that. It's great for office parties. It's great for groups and associations and socializing and things like that. Now, the funny thing is, what does Venus do? And we're going to hear this type of situation a lot. Venus gets into Aquarius, and the first thing she does, she comes face to face with Pluto, right? As soon as she gets into the sign, there's Pluto waiting for her. So you're going to have some fun, huh? Well, we're going to have to see how this plays out over time. A couple of possibilities here for Venus encountering Pluto would be, would be somebody shows up at the group, who's kind of the spoiler. Somebody shows up who's really not in the mood. But this would only really be relevant to this weekend. It's not like, because then Venus is going to continue on in the sign and make nice connections to Jupiter and things like that over the course of the next couple of weeks. So it's really specific to this weekend. The other thing that might happen is that somebody is kind of on the outs in a group. That's, somebody who's like usually on the center of the group somehow winds up on the outs. Another possibility is that there's a little bit of a question of who's in control. Like Venus and Aquarius is like, we're all just one big harmonious group. We're all on the same page about things. But what if somebody wants to be the boss? What if somebody wants to be in control? Now, how's everybody else going to handle that? So again, there could be an individual within a group who, in one way or another, is a little off. Might be you. Might not you. It might be you. Might be me. Not me. All right. That's a lot of stuff going on. Basically, start the week off careful with communication. Try to get stuff done, enjoy that Sagittarian vibe as the week begins. Think of it as a fairly serious time. We have some Saturn stuff going on, and that's going to be serious. But it's Sagittarius, so it's not too serious. When we get to the weekend, when we're looking at Friday, Saturday, Sunday, It's just all about being okay, having a good time, not taking things too seriously. Don't go too far with things, even fun. Don't go too far with it. Don't take it too seriously. That's good. You know what? That should just be every forecast. Don't take it too seriously.